pass out, guys. One more look at her, I'm gonna put her back in. Check that fish out, 20-inch 5-pounder. Hey guys, Mike here from Binya Outdoors, fishing on a Friday. Had a half day at work. I'm super excited to get out on the water and finally be able to do some fishing after my last tournament. And well, as you guys can probably tell, it is nasty windy out here. This is not the kind of conditions that you would ask for in a general purpose. Now, that being said, does that stop me from fishing? Absolutely not. And I honestly think that a lot of the times when you get a heavy wind, we're talking 30+ mile-an-hour gusts I've been dealing with today, that actually helps you in a lot of ways. It creates chop on the water. It creates basically the entire body of water becomes cover because visibility gets lower and those fish are more likely to move around in open water. But how do you approach it? How do you fish this kind of stuff and be successful? If you are a guy who loves to fish the Ned rig, the Wacky rig, and really dink and dunk, I'm sorry to say that that technique is going to have a time and place, and there is certain situations where you're going to be able to utilize that. But for the most part, this is a power fisherman's game. So what I mean by that is you need to get out your square bills, your chatterbaits, your swim jigs, your bigger swim baits. Like for example, this one right here is a jointed swim bait that's custom painted by A-Bay Lure Lab, and that right there is the go-to for me when the conditions are like this. The visibility is a little bit lower because the wind's stirring up all that dirt and all that sediment. The water has some chop to it, so you really need those fish to be able to key on something. They need a motion. Well, a bigger profile bait is going to be able to be seen at a further distance. The other thing you have to take into account is whether you want to use rattles or silent baits. I actually recommend trying both. There is certain instances in my experience where when you're using a specific crankbait and it's got rattles in it, it doesn't work. And then I switch things up, use the exact same color, but a silent version of that bait, and I'll catch fish. And I truly believe that sometimes when it's really windy like it is right now, that chaos, that constant clack, 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 clack is just drowned out by all the other noises in the water with the water being tossed around. And I think it kind of throws the sound and it makes it so that the fish can't actually key in on that bait. And sometimes it may even be too much for those fish. They may be hunkering down because of the storm, and you going by them with a supersonic loud clanging noise just shuts them down. So it doesn't always have to be a loud bait, so keep that in mind. Sometimes a silent but big profile bait will work. The other thing I highly recommend when fishing wind is don't plan on sitting in one spot unless you have an anchor like I'm doing right now. But overall, I actually recommend, if you can safely, just let the wind take you where it's going to take you. There's two reasons why. One, you're going to work half as hard because you're not going to be pedaling all day long to try to stay in position. Two, those fish, those bass, those ambush predators, they're going to be waiting because you know what? The bait fish are going to be pushed with the wave just like you are in your kayak. So what does that mean? Those fish are going to be waiting on the other end of wherever that water current is going to ambush that bait that gets forced to them because the current is forcing them in that direction. So by following the current naturally in your boat, you're actually heading to the fish. You'd be surprised how many times I've been pushed into little bays, little pockets that I never really fish, but I just let the wind take me, and all of a sudden I start slamming fish once I get into that pocket. And it's simply because nature was taking me to where those fish were holding up and waiting for their meal. So we're gonna start fishing a little bit here, guys. I'm gonna give you some more details along the way, but I just wanna go through all the little details, and hopefully this information will help you guys to fish the wind and maybe get into a big one. So I know I said in the beginning of the video, guys, that using finesse isn't always going to happen. There is a certain circumstance and sometimes a case to use finesse. Now, as you can probably tell, I'm doing a little voiceover work here. The wind was too loud and any of the audio I had got cut out. But basically, one way you can use finesse is if you look at this island that I'm fishing right here, the wind is coming from the left-hand side of my kayak. What I like to do
is I will use the wind as ultimately a trolling motor, and I cast. The thing you have to keep in mind when fishing finesse in the wind is that a weightless bait is going to get tossed. It's not going to end up where you casted it. One, the wind's going to take it on your cast, and two, once it hits the water, the current and the direction of that water is going to force that bait away from where you currently are. So ultimately, you're going to end up having your bait move down. So you want to cast above where you intend the bait to be. So for example, if you're casting to a dock, cast upwind of the dock and let the bait get carried into the dock instead of trying to cast under the dock, in which the bait is going to end up past the dock by the time it gets there. The other thing you can do when fishing finesse, and you'll see it in just a moment, is I actually move up to the other side of the island. That is on the opposite side of the wind, which breaks the wind a little bit and allows you to get a little bit of relief from that wind, and as you can see, allows you to hook up on a fish, because those fish will hang out in behind the wind breaks while they're trying to ambush as well. So that's another little key, is sometimes those fish will wait on the non-windy side. As you guys can see right here, it's significantly calmer on this side of the island because that island is acting as a windbreak and slowing down the current, and it does create a place where fish will hang out and watch bait fish get pushed onto the outsides of the island. So it's just a little tip there to help you pick spots to finesse fish and win.
Okay. Hell yeah. Oh, that was little or what the hell? Oh, it's a pike, that's why. That's why. Freaking pike. There you go, guys. Oh, another freaking pike. Goddamn pike, love this bait. Bro, this freaking pike, dude, they're destroying my bait, man. Stop it, homie. Pike? Stay down. Oh no, that's a bass. A big old freaking bass mixed up with a big old thing of freaking weeds. That's funny. It felt weird. That was a weird feeling fight. Look at the mouth on that bass, guys. Big beast bass, probably another 18-incher. Look at the size of that thing, guys. That's probably 3-4 pounder, guys. Nice fish. All right, guys, so that last fish catch was on the Zman Evo 1/2 ounce green pumpkin, and it's on the Crush City Freeloader. It's a black blue with the green pumpkin belly. I'm fishing it on 30-pound braid, reaction tackle camo braid, and you guys notice the rod? That is an FX Extreme Customs medium heavy moderate. I'm really getting into the moderate action rods lately. I just like the way I can fight the fish, I can play them out. It gives me just a lot more flexibility, honestly. And I know that sounds like a pun, but it really is. It's just like you saw how I pulled that fish, and it's probably almost a 4-pound largemouth that I was able to play out, get my net ready, fight him in, and it really wasn't that tough of a fight. I love how the rod feels when I'm fighting a fish. I get the ability to fight them all the way back to the boat. I keep them pinned. If I have to maneuver in my kayak, my rod doesn't unload too fast like some of these fast action rods. And I'm just really, really happy so far with this rod. It's actually one I bought from one of the guys I compete against in the tournament trail that I'm in. He's a pro staffer for them, and I picked it up from him after doing a demo of it. So again, I'm gonna give you guys a full review at the end of the year like I do with all my equipment I buy, but so far, this rod, this chatterbait, this line has been a deadly combo to get big fish in the boat.
First frogfish of the year.
All right, guys, I'm gonna end the video right here. It was a really good day on the water. I'm actually exhausted. It's a lot of work being out here when it's windy. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's definitely tougher, but like I said earlier, you know, reaction style baits won out. All my bigger fish were caught on moving baits, you know, chatterbait, swim jigs, things of that nature. And really, it's just about figuring out how to get your boat positioning. If you have to anchor down, anchor down. But I really do recommend, if you can get out in the wind, if you can do it safely, don't put yourself in danger just to catch fish. That's a dumb thing to do. But if you can do it safely, the windy days are when those big girls come out to play. You'd be surprised how many big fish are moving around during those windy conditions, and you're able to get into them. You know, try your big baits, try your swim jigs, your square bills, chatterbaits. Use all those nice, cool power fishing techniques. And if you find a spot that you're able to tuck into where it's a little calmer, then bust out the finesse stuff and pick it apart. But overall, it was a really good day on the water, like I said, and I really recommend, guys, if you haven't already, check out some other videos on my channel. I'm trying to do a lot more educational content for you, trying to teach you guys how to be more effective on the water. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this content. If you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and as always, let's get out there, catch more fish.